Welcome to another wildfire bonus episode of Inside Deschutes County. I'm Eric Breon. Well, throughout wildfire season, we're bringing you timely conversations with the experts to help you stay informed and prepared. Joining us again is Deschutes County Emergency Manager Ben Duda, and also joining us today is Al DeVos. He's with the Oregon Department of Forestry Incident Management Team. I appreciate you both for being here. I know it's an incredibly busy time for you both, so thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
We got a lot to talk about.
We sure do.
Ben, since we talked last time,
A couple things have happened. Couple things have happened. We'll talk about that. This is recording on July 27th. So I just want to put that out there because information is always changing. The Akawa Butte fire got everyone's attention. So without getting into too many specifics that might change over time, Ben, what made this fire such a good reminder of how quickly conditions can change in Central Oregon? Because we went from 4th of July conversation and fireworks to Yeah. And even 4th of July was, we had some issues over the 4th of July as well that needed to be addressed with some few fires, and we've had some fires since then. And then the lightning came in, and I think it really highlighted kind of where we were in terms of fire severity and our drought conditions, weather conditions that kind of punched us in the face, more or less.
Yep. Right now we're experiencing fuel and weather that we would expect in the late fall.
Right. And, as we've got a pretty incredible system here in Central Oregon. I know all the agencies had brought severity resources in. They kind of recognized the possibility of what that lightning can do. We saw what was going on in Southwest Oregon with East Evans Creek, South Evans, even that fire down there by Medford. Mm-hmm. And so they plussed it up pretty good. But as the storms roll through Deschutes County, they're going south to north, and we're picking them up or attacking those. And resources start to get depleted as the storms roll north. And unfortunately, Akawa Butte was one of the later ones of that storm cell to show itself. Mm-hmm. And resources had been drawn down, and there's a valiant initial attack effort, but in that remote country, and there were some higher priorities in other areas in terms of aircraft. There were fires that were immediately threatening some homes and critical infrastructure. It turns into kind of a triage of multiple fires occurring at the same time.
So Al, when a fire like this makes a significant run, what are firefighters evaluating in those first few hours? What factors determine kind of how you attack?
There are quite a few considerations in it, but one of them is what are the values at risk that we want to protect? One of our main objectives is protecting the lives of firefighters, the public, and critical resources and assets on the ground. So are there utility lines, communities, other things of value? But, everybody in the organization looks at it a little bit differently. So on the operations side, they're looking at fuels, terrain, wind, what resources they have, where they can best fire terminology, you want to just anchor, flank, and then get ahead of the head. So where can we anchor in and secure that so we can start working our way around it, because you don't fight fire from the front. And so everybody's looking at it differently. Our logistics people are anticipating this is going to be a large fire. We're going to have over 1,000 people. Where can we set up a camp to supply all these firefighters on the fire line so they have meals and food and just everything they need for their basic needs, including medical service and showers. So everybody is looking at it differently. And we're also looking at who are our cooperators, who has a vested interest in this, how do we collaborate with them and partner with them to have a really effective response and communicate with the public so that they understand. Because it's a really tough time when there's a fire and a big cloud, which everybody's probably going to be seeing for the rest of the summer, some large plumes in the sky. It's unnerving, unsettling, and people are wondering, do I have to evacuate? So we work really closely with, like Ben and his group for evacuations and other things regarding public safety.
I mean, I'm always curious about the response because, it went from, okay, there's a fire, to the number that you just mentioned, over 1,000 people responding to this. I think a number I saw was like 1,600 personnel.
That's right.
And that is how quickly does it go from, hey, there's a fire, to 1,600 personnel, and managing those people, where you put them, how you feed them, all those things, and then of course the work?
That's a really good question, and I can only say that it depends on the availability of resources out there. So right now there are over 39 uncontrolled fires across the state. I think we have currently, as of this date, we have 14 to 17 incident management teams deployed. And so that means whatever resources are out there are in limited numbers. So one of our biggest obstacles on the operations side is we have contract crews or crews from other agencies that are involved, but you need management. We call it middle management. So division supervisors that can, we always want to make sure that everybody has a span of control and, not managing too many people over too broad of an area. So having people for managing the fire keeps communications good, planning good, and firefighters safe. So in the first 2 days of our response, there was a bit of a need for middle management to get the resources out there safely. And ODF, in this case, made a very tough decision we deployed to the brewer in Akawa, Butte, and they realized shortly the only way that we are going to get that middle management is to deploy a second team, because each of our teams bring with it some middle management. So when we split off from brewer to Akawa, Butte, it gave us a chance to really go hard on this fire. And, I'm really happy to say that today we're in a good spot on that. There are other fires out there, but our goal is to get this fire taken care of so we can get the resources here put out to support other fires.
I mean, are you guys spread too thin? I mean, 30 some odd fires.
I think they are, but it's one of the principles of the incident command system, and that all of the agencies work in, and it's a national level thing. There's still things you can do to be successful, and you go back to your priorities of protecting life and property, firefighters, the public, the infrastructure. You start focusing on those small points, and you're building off of there and doing what you can to stabilize the incident, inform all those people around it, and take advantage of those opportunities. Mm-hmm. Be set up for success. So when the resources become available or the priority can shift your direction, you're ready to take those resources in, and when you have that opportunity to get the work done. And I think we're seeing that, and that's kind of what we've evolved to. I mean, we're thin, but there's a lot of incredible work going on the ground, and there's big smoke columns. But between the ODF teams, the state fire marshal teams, the federal teams, they're starting to bring in teams from all over the country to take on these little fires and get plans set up and things in place and figure out how they're going to start tackling these things. So as the resources get shifted around, they can take advantage of that.
Those shifts, I mean, just to jump all over you.
No, that's okay. You're welcome to.
So Ben makes a really good point. And there are different types of incident management teams, and the ones from ODF and a lot of the national teams are called complex incident management teams, and they're used to working under all sorts of complex scenarios. And so our operations people are adept at, depending on what resources they have available, allocating to the highest priority areas for getting that fire out. So they will always say we could use more resources, but they also know how to do the best with what we have. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've been doing, because statewide and nationally, the goal is to just get the fires out quick, get these crews out there resting or deployed to the next fire, so that we can just knock them all out. So we look at it as a whole system, and also how we manage each individual fire. Well,
I know you kind of answered this question, but in terms of the priority for, life and firefighter, all those things, I heard at one point Akawa was the number one fire in the nation. Mm-hmm. And so how do those get prioritized? Because now you're talking about, okay, where do the planes go? Mm-hmm. Where do the firefighters go? Mm-hmm. Where do those resources go? Is there a priority kind of scale that kind of goes, okay, now we need that many people there, we need that many planes there, those kinds of things? Right. There are, and it's a complicated formula. It's a collaborative decision process of how resources get allocated, because it's not just what you have on the ground. You have to factor in aviation resources. Mm-hmm. So what bumps a fire up is
what threats it's posing to local communities. And in this case here in Central Oregon is home to so many of the vacation spots that Oregonians and other people in the country hold dear to their hearts, and as well as utilities and, communities. So when structures are threatened, and, not to be too specific to Akawa Butte, because I'm sure it's happening in other places, but a few days back, we had a wall of flames that was 4 to 6 miles wide moving directly toward Wychus Canyon Sisters area. And it was only by some miraculous arrival of a monsoon thunderstorm that knocked down this massive pyrocumulus column that let us get, this thunderstorm, it
Kind of knocked it down a little bit. Turn the corner.
Derive the monsoons. It changed the wind direction. So it started blowing away, which gave us a chance to, turn the corner. Yeah, thanks for that. So
I know one of the things I've heard too from the folks is like, well, why aren't there any aircraft flying on it? And those are some really tough decisions that I know they have to make. And sometimes those decisions are made. There's interagency collaborative groups that are assigning kind of that what fires are the priorities, based on the current situation that day. And aircraft being aircraft, they could be going, they could be go fly in Crook County for the day because there's a higher priority for that day. All those incident commanders have a daily phone call. They get together and go, what are your sore spots and how can we help each other out? And they might even shift things back and forth day to day. The other point I was going to make too with the aircraft specifically, because we hear that all the time in social medias and everything. They should be hitting that with retardant and things. But if they don't have the resources on the ground to take advantage of what that aircraft is doing, it's really kind of a waste of that fuel and risking those pilots and things. If you can't take advantage of adding that, maybe that's such a critical resource that can do more effective work on priority areas on other places. And so until we can back it up on the ground and get the most efficiency out of those critical resources like that, they're probably going to go elsewhere.
Yeah, and a good point on this for the public. And I've heard an incident commander say this once. When you're in town and you can look up and the sky is blue and you see a big column, that's the fire breathing, and that's a day where aircraft likely can fly. But when we can't breathe because it's smoked in, the fire can't breathe, which usually that's an inversion layer. And so aircraft gets complicated because we have tankers stationed in Redmond, but there was a day where we were looking to have some great air support from the tankers, but they were grounded due to smoke. So they weren't flying here or anywhere. Application of aircraft, there are discussions about that. We use bucket ships quite a bit, and they can get out there and drop the buckets of water right where the firefighters need them. There's misunderstandings that if you have a super tanker with retardant, it's going to stop all the fires. Which it doesn't. If you have a canopy cover with the trees, that retardant's never even going to hit the ground. It's stuck up in the trees where it's not doing any good. So there's so many factors that factor into it.
A lot of factors.
Yeah. So hopefully the public can understand that there are a lot of really smart people that have years and years of accumulated wildfire experience and decision making. So their decisions are always based on what is going to help us utilize our resources the best.
Yeah. Ben, talk to me a little bit about the evacuation conversation because you have the 3 levels.
Correct. Yep.
The get ready, get set, go. How did that work for this fire in particular?
I think it went pretty well. It really did. I think that folks listened to the alerts that got sent out. Thankfully we did. We've got a lot of, after Flat Fire, we had a lot of folks sign up for Deschutes Alerts at DeschutesAlerts.org. And it was I think that went out. We gave, I think the blow up day, as we've come to call it, when that pyrocumulus formed over the fire, we kind of saw that potential coming, and we had a fairly active fire the night before, and so as we reassessed everything in the morning, we had increased some evacuation levels.
We had ashes falling all through town.
Yeah, we increased some levels that morning. Some level 2s, and then they sat in level 2 for 2-3 hours, and then that's kind of when things started getting, the winds were switching. They were flipping 180 degrees, first to the southwest, and then went back to the east and back and forth. And so there was some rapid fire level 3s put in, but everybody had gotten a heads up. I feel like had a few hours in that level 2 that things are chomping away, things are coming.
Yeah.
And then it was really rapid fire after that. And what we saw in some of the evacuees is they were ready to go. There was, as soon as level 3 went, they were lined up coming down Wilt Road.
You make a good point that
Yeah.
not just for this fire, but I think for all across Oregon, that we are in an extreme fire season.
Yeah.
And so once evacuations are in place, it's really important for the public to monitor them and track them, and because they can change as the conditions change. So
we love to give people as much notice as we can, but there's a balance there of not wanting to cry wolf either, right? So we want to be real.
Do you think the flat fire helped with that a little bit?
I 100% do. I think that
the fire from last year.
Yeah, there was some learning curves on that one for some folks. I mean, they had Grandview a year before that, or 2 years before that even.
It was a few before that.
It didn't come in as hard as Flat did, and that Flat was, they had little to no notice on Flat. That was making a 10-mile run, and then a day. Akawa Butte was a mile and a half, and 2
One of
miles.
the nice things about highly functional response at the county and state and regional level is after we have these incidents, we're really good at doing after-action reviews and just sitting down and talking about what did we do well, what can we improve, and then just working together collaboratively to make it so that next time we can serve the public better.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the weather, because we knew for a little bit that this lightning storm was possible. Is it at that point where you're reacting, or are you waiting for strikes to react? I'm always curious about that, because is the response already starting to move in before the fire happens, or is it after the lightning hits?
That's a yes and yes, but maybe not the way you're thinking of it. So, the incident management teams are the last to mobilize. Usually most of these things, we all know that the lightning is coming in and we're ready for it, but most responses come at the district or local level. They're on alert and preparedness. And so typically the district or the local fire department, they will fight as long as they can, but we call it initial attack. But once they can't sustain it, they've been out there for 24, 48 hours, and they're not able to do it if they don't have additional resources or they need something, then they'll maybe request an incident management team of the next level. And then the highest level is a complex incident management team. And here, the time from fire start to where we needed a complex incident management team, and I think that's going to be the story all this summer, it was minimal. So I think this fire started and we were responding within 24 hours. We were deployed here.
Yep. And you don't give yourself enough credit, Al.
It was pretty quick.
It was pretty quick, and there's a lot of prep work. I know the incident management teams and like the headquarters in Salem of fire marshals and all the agencies are looking at these storms coming in, and they're looking and seeing, okay, which team is up next? Are they ready to go? Their incident commanders are making calls and saying, this is looking like this could be something. So there's some warning orders that are going on kind of at that level.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, Ben, because
you're right. Oh, sorry.
That Al's not taking enough credit here, because they're coming from all over.
And we honestly, you said that, Ben, and I realized we in-briefed, or we had our, what's called the IC call with our team. We had that at 6 o'clock in the evening, and we were in briefing in Sisters from, our whole teams from across the state. We in briefed in Sisters the next day at noon.
Yeah.
So it's just
they're
pack your bags, go.
All the agencies are at all complexity levels are eyeballing kind of the chance of what's the odds that we're going to get deployed in something like this. Yeah. Local initial attack forces are kind of plussed up. They cancel days off and they bring extra crews in if they're available.
Yeah.
And is that what you're most proud of so far, is the response?
You know what? I think just the unified collaborative response that we've had. And I've been talking with the wildland side. I have to stress that we have an excellent partner in the Oregon State Fire Marshal. And, whenever there are structures threatened, that's their priority. We've, over the years, worked so long and so well together that we've kind of honed our partnership. So their structural teams work with our wildland teams. And when we're in a situation where nationally there may not be a lot of tankers or water tankers or other things available, we're trying to keep the fire from getting in the structures. They're prepping the homes for the fire. But if they have water tankers available to bring water to the fire line to help us slow it down, they do that. And we work really good when we're in unified command. Like, I have a partner that with OSFM, and operations has someone in our logistics team and our incident commanders. We work close together, and each of us are so well integrated we can speak for each other's actions. So we have a great statewide response here, and they were monitoring and ready to go as soon as we were. So
Yeah.
Well, wildfire season far from over.
Yeah.
I'm always curious though, when you go and you're protecting these homes, how well did most, not to throw homeowners under the bus, it's not their fault that these fires are happening, but were there a lot of wildfire mitigation things that helped in terms of, saving homes?
Yeah, there are some homes that have been pointed out
Did
to us.
people
Like,
take the advice is
Yeah.
what I,
It's
because
the majority, particularly in Sisters Country.
yeah.
they probably learned from
They did.
From the
prior
flat fire,
fires,
yeah.
right?
Well,
It's-
flat fire was an amazing example. We tout it regularly. Is that I think the number was somewhere around 700 or 800 homes were either at the perimeter or within the perimeter of the flat fire scar, and we lost 5 homes, which is tragic. But it was a door-to-door, home-to-home fight that is critical that defensible space is done around those homes for the fire. It wasn't just structure firefighters doing the structure protection either. It was everybody at that point. And
Is that what you would tell people who may not, maybe they're in South County or, different parts of the Tri-County area? Keep doing this?
Absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely.
And it's not just in those rural areas. Look at what's happened in Deschutes County. Is it just yesterday, or the day before? We had fires pop up right along the Parkway and almost in downtown. We had the fires in Dry Canyon in the middle of Redmond. These are defensible space. Isn't just for folks on the fringe in the forest. It's critical everywhere.
Yeah, and it's not just for your own house. It's really for your whole community.
Yeah.
Because when there is a threat to a neighborhood or a community, we're going in there and cleaning it up even more, just prepping things. And so if there is a massive amount of work to do, or people are leaving their plastic lawn chairs on decks, or they've got pine needles on their rooftops and in their gutters, like all the things that being fire-wise means are not done, then that takes resources from us to try to protect that home and make it safe. So the more everybody in the neighborhood protects their property and helps as a community to make sure that they're all fire-wise, the better off we are, and the more we can utilize our resources to fight the fire and not helping prep people's homes. And sometimes we just don't have enough resources to come in.
Or time. Time is the biggest factor on that. Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
I'm guessing that's the biggest piece of advice to people is prepare.
Prepare.
It's probably prepare your home, but also prepared to evacuate, right?
Correct.
Have a plan.
Yeah.
Yep. Have a plan, know what you're going to take, know where you're going to go.
Yeah.
And when you get to the level 2, get set, you should really have all of your things ready or loaded or ready to be loaded in, and plans for your pets or your animals and other things.
Yeah.
Because, the go now could come quickly, and that doesn't leave you a lot of time. And if everybody's trying to go now at the same time on some of these roads, especially if you're far out there and they're having horse trailers or other things, the exit isn't as quick as we'd like. We'd like to make it nice and smooth because there's still firefighting operations going on. There's tanker trucks and engines responding, so it can be tricky.
And thanks, Al. That was a great segue for a point I meant to remember. You're not always going to have this nice escalation from level 1 to level 2 to level 3.
It might be 3.
It might be 3, and we saw that the other day along in Redmond. There was a neighborhood. It was level 3 now because the fire occurred right in a neighborhood. So we're gonna do those first, and we're gonna get those folks out of the way, notified appropriately as fast as we can. Then level 2s, level 1s will kind of get stuck on after that as we watch the incident evolve. As it starts to go on for a few days, we hope to get some lead time and be able to get some extra warning out in front of these things. But it could be 0 to 3.
And fire behavior isn't necessarily just a fire on the ground that's moving slowly. Sometimes these fires, especially when we have red flag conditions, they have winds behind them. And it's totally possible for a fire that creates its own weather or just in the winds where it picks up an ember and just moves it 100 yards down the road. And that fire burns and it casts embers. So fire doesn't just move on the ground under extreme conditions. It can move in the air. So, it's good for the public to just be aware of what's going on, be prepared, and just know if you're in extreme fire weather, you need to be extremely careful about planning and being ready.
Well, I want to sneak in one final question here. And
Sure.
We've talked a lot about firefighting. We've talked a lot about logistics and
Right.
predicted resources and those kinds of things. But you guys are in a unique position when you're responding to these fires to kind of see the human element,
Right.
the evacuees, the volunteers, the support that comes to these communities who are affected by fire. Can you talk a little bit about that kind of response that you might have seen in the sisters community over by the Akawa Butte fire that may have touched you, that may have surprised you, that may have really kind of showcased the human spirit of Central Oregon, or Deschutes County for that matter?
I'd love to hear Al's take coming in from outside.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Just to throw
Put
you
you on
under
the
the
spot.
bus. Yeah.
No, it's not on the spot. I have, I think, a few good examples. So one of them is we ran a community meeting and we did it live and in person. We had a tremendous turnout there, but I was also monitoring the Facebook live stream. And just for the first 10 to 15 minutes of that public meeting, just the whole chat thread was just hearts flying up hearts. And so that's one thing. We've had community members wanting to donate and thank firefighters in so many ways. And I think of all those groups, aside from the community, the firefighters, the commitment to mission is important. And, without naming names, we had somebody in the firefighter group that had a very serious family scenario. Then they had to leave home. But their commitment to mission is like, we want to be home for a few days and get back out to the fire line, because that's how important it is for them to just shoulder this responsibility of protecting Oregonians and getting them in. So we've had appreciation from our cooperators, all of our elected officials. And, in this case here, we even had a visit from our governor, not just to our fire, but visited some other fires. And I can honestly say the intent was to show support to the IMTs, let the community know that, yes, you matter, I care about it, but also to get information and understanding of where our choke points are, so that as a governor, decisions can be made that really help us operate smoothly and give us what we need. Yeah. And I think, in the question and answer, she asked some of our agency administrators and others, like, what is it you need? And Rob Penzer, he just really heartfelt, just like,
that's our district forester for ODF.
Yeah, district forester for ODF. And he said, she asked, what's your biggest concern? And his response is like, our people. We've got more fire on the ground than we have people. And they've been fighting for like 36 hours straight.
Yeah.
And, we need to make sure they're here for the rest of the season. And so you can tell that she heard that, and she's going to do everything she can to help and improve the system. So we've had recognition and appreciation all along the way. And it's nothing that I see is showboating or anything from our team. We see a lot of conspiracy theories and everything, but I can assure that from the federal level all the way to the state level, everyone is committed to the mission and wants to protect the communities and property and serve the community best and work with our local communities. Like our theme is to really tie in, and if we can help leave that county's emergency management service feeling better and stronger because we've helped navigate traffic to them or understand where to go for their information, and we've worked closely with them, that they feel like we've helped bolster that, then we've done our job. Yeah. We always want to leave a community in better, standing stronger and taller when we leave than when we arrive, and we really try to do that.
Ben, I'll give you a chance to answer that question
Thank
too.
you.
And,
Yeah.
Thanks.
And
You mean I didn't?
no,
you
I
it was
didn't.
great.
No, I'm kidding.
Great answer.
Yeah.
But I just want to give Ben a chance to respond too, because the volunteers, the businesses that are offering free food,
it's been incredible,
or a place to stay. Have you seen anything like that?
Absolutely. It's been, and even honestly, before the fire got into Deschutes County, there was some outpouring. People were getting the warning, and taking notice. The sheriff was plugged in, and we were talking about what kind of evacuation levels needed to happen. Start looking at Deschutes County before it was even in the county. The county commissioners were engaged with me. The city Red Cross is calling me before we even started evacuations, thinking of where should we consider it a shelter and things like that. So Sisters has an amazing several community groups. We learned from Flat Fire last year. We've got a small group of county health, state health services, community outreach groups that we started that conversation again. Is what does the sheltering look like? What does recovery look like? Even getting mental health tools out there, and even links for folks to find information on how do I replant and how do I keep noxious weeds down, and all those groups started coming around and talking to each other again. Pet evacuation team was stuck in a uniquely awkward position as the state fair was coming, and we had that on the horizon, and it's a scenario we'd been talking about since last year of what if we can't use the fairgrounds, and we used it as a temporary shelter for a short time, and they're amazing in identifying some alternate sites if we had to move, and we ended up ultimately not having to move because there was some horse groups that had stalls reserved for the fair that said, well, we don't need all of them. You can stay here. And it was just the outpouring of support and help and collaboration between all the different community groups and all getting coordinated to help everybody and help our animals, help the shelter out. Salvation Army is out there providing meals at the Sisters High School for the Red Cross shelter. And we've set up websites for folks that are providing support. If it's somebody that has a little bit of acreage, I got the sweetest email there was a 90-year-old woman living alone in Bend that was offering up her spare room and a shower for evacuees if we need to. Just incredible things like that. But we're collecting all that, and it's such a wonderful place to be as an emergency manager when you have more support available than you need, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then we've also set up a website that folks that have been affected by the flat fire that can go ask for any kind of assistance they may need. And that group I was mentioning earlier, the recovery group, we network with them and say, who can help this person with that? And who can help this person with this other thing? And so it's such an amazing place to be.
And one offshoot of that recovery group we're implementing today, and I'm sure for Oregonians around the state that have evacuated, that part of evacuating is returning to home. Yeah. And, that recovery group, Ben was able to send us some great flyers and information packets that were used after the flat fire. We've adapted them to this fire. So today, members of the Oregon State Fire Marshal are out there, distributing them to homeowners. They're coming home, and it has a lot of helpful information for them and what they need to know. So
the sheriff's really feels the impact of keeping people evacuated and away from their homes. It's an impact mentally and physically and financially on the city and the businesses and the people that live in that community. And we're really anxious to get people back, but as it's safe and in conjunction with what Ops is seeing out there in the field. So
and that's a good point for another podcast, maybe because we're running over. But evacuation notices are not taken lightly, or decisions are not taken lightly by sheriff's departments, because they don't want to get the public overly excited, but they don't want to jeopardize them. So the same thing goes on the other way down. And once the evacuation goes from level 3 to level 2, where the public can return home, they're confident that it's not going to have to go back up. And they're not just basing that decision on themselves. They're talking with the firefighters on the ground. They're doing the planning and everything. So they are not trying to hold evacuations open longer. They're trying to get them down as quickly and as safely as possible. So,
well, the fires are still burning.
Yes.
And even though we may have turned the corner on the Akawa Butte fire, the resources, the collaboration, the hard work, the effort, the volunteer, everything is still going on. Not to mention the West, state of Washington, California, the fires are everywhere, and I know Oregon contributes to those efforts as well. So just really appreciative of your time today to be able to come and talk about these things and share a little bit of perspective that perhaps some people might not get otherwise. Right. And so thank you both for being here.
It's been a pleasure.
No, this is great to have this avenue to just educate folks, and happy to be here. Thanks.
As always, thank you for listening to this wildfire bonus episode of Inside Deschutes County. For the latest wildfire information and resources, visit the Deschutes County Emergency Information Dashboard. You can get there by going to deschutescounty.gov/emergency. CentralOregonFire.org is another place to go for updates, and you can sign up for emergency notifications through Deschutes Alerts. Those resources will have the most current information as conditions change. We'll continue bringing you these bonus wildfire episodes throughout the season, but until next time, stay informed, stay prepared, and please be safe out there.